Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session this afternoon as part of the Scottish Learning Festival 2022. I'm absolutely delighted to see our numbers going up as I speak, and I know that people will be joining us in the next minute or so as we begin our session. My name's Alan Fleming, and I'm an Education Officer for Education Scotland for ELC, and I'll be hosting the session this afternoon. There are a few details just to go over before we get started, just to make the session flow as smoothly as we can. For your information, this session is being recorded, and by remaining on the call, you're acknowledging that fact. Just to remind you that if you don't want to be on view within the recording, to remind you that you can turn your cameras off. We would ask that you turn your microphones off when you're not speaking, and this just prevents any background noise or interference that might happen. You can use the chat pane to make comments or ask a question for others in the session to see, and you can also post questions if you've got any issues with regarding technical aspects too. If you wish, there is also a closed captions feature that you can enable for increased accessibility. And if you do have any technical issues or you do lose connection, please don't panic this afternoon. Just go out and come back in following the joining instructions that you received, and hopefully that should fix anything that's gone wrong. We would be delighted if you could tweet about your experience this afternoon, and you can use the hashtag SLF22, and that just shares everything under the one kind of banner so that we can see everything that's happening across the wide variety of things that are available as part of SLF. Before we get started, it's just great to have everyone here, and we would encourage you, if there are any opportunities to ask questions or engage in chat, to really do that. And we want to encourage that active participation, to really share that knowledge this afternoon as much as we can. I'm going to stop sharing this screen just now, and I'm going to introduce very briefly, because you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to Ruth. So I'm joined this afternoon by Ruth Reid, who is a workstream lead from the Northern Alliance, and she's here to talk to us this afternoon about work that's happened around curriculum rationale. So I'm really excited to hear about this, and I know that you are too. So without any further ado, I will pass over to Ruth. Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks everyone for coming along today to listen to this short presentation. And I'm just going to share some of the collaborative improvement work that ELC settings have been doing in the Northern Alliance, really last session in particular. So my name's Ruth Reid, and until August just there, I was the early years workstream lead for the Northern Alliance, and I've actually moved to a different role within the collaborative now. But I've got my details there, and I'm still available to contact there if you would like to get in touch afterwards. I'm really excited to share our work with you today as part of the SLF, and I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so what is the Northern Alliance? Well, the Northern Alliance is a regional improvement collaborative between 8 local authorities in the north of Scotland. And we're here to facilitate collaboration for improvement with a focus on quality, leading to improved outcomes for all our children and young people in this diverse and absolutely massive geographical region right across the north of Scotland, from Campbelltown in the south, really, I suppose, where I'm based, right up to Shetland in the far north, a very enormous geographical area. And so the early years work stream in the Northern Alliance covers a diverse range of services, and you can see there are over 800 services within the Northern Alliance, and half of those roughly are local authority services, but we also have private partners, we have voluntary and health services too, and we also have childminders, and they provide a valuable service too for our youngest learners. Unfortunately, we don't have any data about how many childminders there are yet in the Northern Alliance, but we're hoping that'll change. So through collaborative networking, the workstream supported the rollout and implementation of the 1140 hours of early learning and childcare across the 8 local authorities. And initially, lots of that quality was focusing on the role of excellence and equity lead practitioners to drive forward improvement and quality. So when I started this role in 2020, excellence and equity lead practitioners were really the main focus. So in late 2019, the Northern Alliance Excellence and Equity Leads Network had been formed, and the Excellence and Equity Leads from across the region collaborated to create the aim of developing curriculum rationale with settings in their own localities. And so that was built into the Northern Alliance Early Years Workstream priorities. But then everything changed and COVID hit. During the first months of the pandemic, Excellence and Equity Leads were involved in the emergency response, and their network then became an important source of peer support to ensure well-being. Excellence and Equity Leads were also engaged in Model for Improvement professional learning, which was delivered at this time. And there was a suite of online improvement tools developed to support ELC staff. And that was a real focus of improvement work in the early years work stream. But at that point, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, improvement was really something that was not on the back burner, but it was something that was really not the prime focus. So then, as things changed a little bit, in April 2021, the Excellence and Equity Network reconvened, and they had a focus on curriculum rationale. And they were keen to offer this to practitioners across their settings, and not just to keep it within the Excellence and Equity Lead role. So in June 2021, the Northern Alliance Early Years Workstream offered a number of standalone professional learning sessions on curriculum rationale, and these sessions were really well subscribed. So following the recommendations of the COVID recovery group in summer 21, there was a renewed focus on curriculum and the refreshed narrative. So there was further demand for curriculum rationale development from local authorities. And as a result, we decided to offer this bespoke curriculum rationale improvement programme. And this programme incorporated improvement methodology tools, a focus on practitioner well-being, and a holistic understanding of curriculum as defined in Realising the Ambition. And this is the kind of Twitter blurb and the publicity that was created for it. So initially there was a massive amount of interest in the programme. There were 54 settings from across the region applying to take part, and we had interest from across Scotland as well, because that really came through our Twitter and there was a lot of engagement with that. So with the support of strategic leads and central early years teams, we got 3 cohorts together, 3 cohorts of 10 settings, with additional members of local authority central teams who came to see if they could then deliver the training further to make it more sustainable in future. And the aim of the programme was, by the end of 8 sessions, 80% of settings in the programme will create a bespoke curriculum rationale, child-centred, developmentally appropriate, and valuing the contribution of all stakeholders. And so we had 30 ELC settings engaged in that programme. And they had representation from all 8 local authorities, including local authority, volunteer and partner settings. And you can see on this slide some of the aims that those settings came up with and those practitioners came up with to look at their own curriculum rationale. And it's not a very clear slide, this one, but if you have a wee look at it, there's lots there to have a shared understanding of a child-centred pedagogy, what that looks like for our families. We would like to have a curriculum rationale that's unique to our setting, personalised to meet children's needs with the community at the heart. We want to have created an early level curriculum rationale which is underpinned by current national guidance, and indeed these aims were met by so many of our settings. It's such a lot of fantastic work, and I would have loved to be able to bring along some of these fabulous teams today to share with you. Actually, a couple of them are here already in their own right, or they are sharing at our Northern Alliance Satellite Teach Meet, which is being held in Aberdeen this evening. So a wee bit of a clash, but that was unavoidable. But I would urge you to go back and see if you can find some of the early years presentations that are taking place at the SLF today when they're recorded, because they do involve some of the settings who were involved. But what did the sessions look like? So practitioners work together to explore their unique culture, context and community, and the next few slides are taken from the introductory session of the programme. So all the slide decks have been transferred to video. So there's an asynchronous suite of materials for practitioners to use independently, which you'll be able to access through the QR codes that are in this presentation, but they're also available in our Northern Alliance SharePoint in Glow. But I will go over that thing link with you in a wee while. We'll have a look at some of the materials and I get a flavour of what the sessions were like. So when we talk about curriculum, I'll let you into a secret. It's one of those words, and many people are not all that confident about defining curriculum, let alone curriculum rationale and design. It sounds very complicated and mysterious, and it can become very technical with thoughts about learner pathways, tick lists, benchmarks and policies. It can be confused with a syllabus to be completed, a set of backdrop themes we always do, activities we must complete to get children ready for the next stage. We need to do all the things in this slide. Help! Oh, why has it done that? Don't know why it's done that. It must be playing the video. Let me have a wee look. It can become very technical. It must be something for the manager or head teacher to do all by herself. So what I'm going to do is if it's going to play a video, I'll just let it play the video instead of me speaking. Don't know why it's doing this. Sorry, I think there's a wee bit of a technical issue. I wonder if, can you hear that? Alan, could you just let me know if you can hear that speaking over the last slide?
Yes, you can.
Oh, I don't actually know why it's doing that. It shouldn't be doing it. But anyway, what I'll do is I will just go on to this one, because otherwise it's gonna be a glitch. So start with the child in front of you in the setting. Start with the image of the child and put the child at the centre of curriculum making, and going back to realising the ambition. So what I think I'll do is, when it comes to the recording, possibly we could include that last slide there if that's possible, but I don't think you're going to miss very much by missing that part of it. I'm not sure why it's decided to put that in, because it was taken out. The joy of teams. So having a look at realising the ambition, this sketch note and the text around it can help us to think about our practice and our curriculum and reflect on the rationale behind it, and it's the key to realising ambition. So when we think about the bit from page 47 in realising the ambition, designing learning environments requires consideration of interactions, experiences and spaces on offer. Physical spaces, both outside and indoors, should be constantly reviewed to incorporate a wide range of responsive, familiar and exciting new play opportunities. To support cognitive development, the learning environment should be rich in opportunities for children to engage with concepts and foster skills for learning, such as reasoning, creativity and problem solving. The choice of experiences on offer should reflect an environment of open-ended possibilities in which children can feel intrinsically motivated to explore and investigate through play, including taking calculated risks and learning from mistakes. In ELC and beyond into school, the social environment of interactions should provide children with opportunities to continue to develop positive relationships with others, while also supporting and developing an understanding of the notion of boundaries, self-regulation, negotiation and choice. As the complexity of the child's play develops, learning should be facilitated through a cyclical process of responsive and intentional planning, which includes observations, interpretation and documentation of learning, responsive and intentional planning and facilitation. And so, looking at this sketch note, this understanding of the learning environment as the totality of the child's experiences relates so closely to curriculum for excellence. Our children's learning environment, interactions, experiences and spaces form the curriculum for a young child. And how do we make this curriculum with and for young children? It's a daily task. And that's why curriculum rationale is so important. This is our understanding of curriculum as learning environment. Our careful observations of children's actions, emotions and words inform our planned learning environment. And this is the basis of working together to create a curriculum rationale, to unpack every aspect of your children's learning environment, their learning environment in terms of interactions, experiences and spaces which are particular and unique to your team, your culture, your context and your community. So that's a wee bit of a flavour of what these sessions looked like, and I apologise for the technical hitch, but you'll be able to go back and have a look at that, and actually you can access all of the recordings which have these slides in them through this thing link. So this is a thing link of resources which has been created and is free to access on our SharePoint, and I've put a QR code in the presentation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just stop sharing this now and go into the actual thing link, and let's have a wee look through it and a wee explore to see what's in there. So I'm just wondering if I can put computer sound on there and people can let me know what happens. So there's lots and lots in this thing link here, and it's really worthwhile having an explore of it. So you can see there's kind of lots of ways to do this. Start here, and that's a little bite-sized introduction to curriculum rationale. So there's loads on YouTube, and just, excuse me, so there's loads on YouTube. I'm a bit worried about sharing the YouTube here because I'm wondering if it's actually going to work. So I think I'll maybe just hedge my bets and not do that. But you'll see if you watch that, that goes through the slides. There's loads on here. There is a wee video. So that's through there, you can have a look at that. There's lots and lots of videos which go together to make up the learning programme. Some improvement tools there. If anybody's involved in the QI improvement programme from SciPic, you'll recognise some of these tools. Just a brief introduction to how to collect data. A liberating structure called 9 Whys. Now, liberating structures are facilitation tools that really would help you working together with the rest of your team to actually unpick some of people's thoughts about their own personal rationales. And a whole set of Jamboards which can be copied and used to support learning, or just to provide a kind of a basis for the use of just flip charts. So lots and lots there. A wee video about setting aims. Again, if you're familiar with any kind of quality improvement methodology, that will support you. And a video about sketchnoting, because one of the real strengths of this programme has been use of sketchnoting, which has really helped practitioners to kind of express what their thoughts are about their own learning. So been very, very powerful. And in here, hopefully you can see that, there is a Padlet, which I'm hoping I can go to full screen. I'm hoping you can see that Padlet there. Alan, I wonder if you could just let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, we can see that.
That's brilliant. Thanks. So within that Padlet, there's a welcome guide, and I think that's probably the first kind of place to start. Oh, it's not very. So that welcome guide gives a suggested outline of how you could use those materials as a training package, professional learning with a setting. So it gives you a kind of suggested timetable, gives you hyperlinks to recommended resources, policies and documents, and some just ideas about how you could use things. Lots and lots in there. There are some links in here to a conference video presentation, which is actually very similar to this presentation today, but with a few different things there. It gives you links to some templates around improvement tools, a link to realising the ambition and supporting materials, a link to the SQI zone, to the care inspectorate, and lots of different things there. So things like the live and scale that you might be able to use if you were going to take part in this. Okay, so lots and lots in there to have a look at and explore. Loads of learning resources. And I would really encourage anyone that's come along today to have a wee look at that. I'm going to go back to the presentation and we'll see the QR code that you'll be able to access. So back to that. So there you are, there's a QR code there, and I think that's the same QR code. I've actually got two slides in here because I had a link on this first one, which took you on a walkthrough, but I don't think that actually was very helpful because it wouldn't share properly. So I can also put the link to the link in chat just now, and if anybody would like to look at it, please do just have a look just now. But while we've kind of just gone through that, I think maybe it's really over to yourselves. I mean, I've done enough talking. Does anyone have an idea about how they could use these materials in their own setting? I think possibly just maybe to spend kind of 10 minutes or so now just having a thought about how you could possibly use this, or if there's any questions that you've got, that would be really kind of helpful. And I'm quite happy to just answer any questions that anybody has. Is there anything more you would like to know? Would anyone like to come in? Either pop in chat or just put your hand up. There's a wee bit more after this, but I think if we have 10 minutes just now and then go back to it, there's a sort of roundup slides at the end.
Well, I think for me, Ruth, just while people are having a wee think, something that's come through is around just that focus that you've been talking about on what is curriculum, and that aspect that is still discussed quite often around, does it mean just the experiences and outcomes? Is that what we're talking about when we're talking about curriculum? And I suppose I'd like to dig a wee bit deeper in how you explored that with the settings that were involved. Did that take a bit of a change of mindset, or was that a journey that people were already on?
No, actually, that was definitely a huge change for a lot of people, because what we did was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go through that slide. It was the only one that didn't work. But that concept to the curriculum is the totality of the child's experiences. And actually, a lot of the programme was unpicking what those child's experiences are. And some of it was actually quite challenging for people, because talking about the culture of your setting can be quite quite challenging in a way, thinking about how you show up as being part of the child's curriculum. So, how you show up as a practitioner when you come into work, if you're in a bad mood that day, that's really, that day is one day of that wee child's life that provides the curriculum for that child. Or if there are things that are, things that have always been done that way. And one of the discussions was about settings where things have always been done that way, and one of the things perhaps is adults being addressed as Miss or Sir in a particular setting, which is a kind of a bit of an apocryphal story, but that frames the whole learner's experience and provides a kind of slant on the curriculum that, you know, you maybe don't think about. It's that being intentional. So a lot of talk there, and the use of the tool liberating structures was very helpful too. Liberating structures are a suite of, there's 36 of them, and they are facilitation tools which provide structures for really getting to the heart of the matter. And one of the ones we used was 9 whys, and I'm sure people are really familiar with 5 whys, which is another one that's used. But thinking about why you started, so sort of just taking that time to spend a couple of minutes writing down, why did you start out working with young children? What is it about young children? Why do you work with children? What is it that drives you? And just then the sheer pleasure of sharing that and actually getting to the heart of thinking, what is a rationale? Well, that's the basic rationale for all of us. Why do we do the work we do? Why do we work with young children? And, you know, so taking that minute to think about that, and it's quite empowering. And then when everybody starts thinking about that, you know, and having a shared purpose and a shared vision and a shared rationale, then we can start to think about how that impacts on our curriculum, the provision that we have for our young learners. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Al.
Yes, thank you very much, Ruth.
So I'm just wondering, I don't think anybody else is brave enough to come in. But I'll maybe just, if anybody has got any other questions that they would like to ask.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you do have a question you don't want to put your camera or mic on, that's fine. Pop it in the chat, and I can we can read it out that way. Because there's lots of tools I think that have been shared this afternoon that I think people find really useful, and it might be interesting to find out a wee bit more about how they were used in particular ways. But there's just one come in there. Is there a link for the aims?
Yes, Elizabeth, there's a link for the aims. So within that thing link, there's one on the wee computer, there's a wee video there that is about setting an aim. So there's quite a lot in there. And if you have a look at it, I mean, it's more about how to set an aim than actually the aims that were on the slides. Do you want to maybe come off on mic and say?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, yeah, we're currently looking at renewing our aims, obviously getting the children and the parents' views. So it's just interesting to see, you know, is there anything to help us with it? That's all.
Well, the aims work that's within that is more about really thinking about what an aim. It's not so much as vision, values, and aims, but actually an aim for an improvement. But it does give you a kind of a set of guidelines for how to produce an improvement aim. So thinking about the acronym called STAN, which is specific, time limited, aligned and numeric, but it's not maybe so much about producing aims in terms of vision, values and aims, but actually curriculum rationale could just as easily be almost, you know, there's a lot of overlap between what a curriculum rationale is and what vision, values and aims work is, and it certainly feeds into that and informs it. So maybe what you'd be more interested in looking at there would be looking at things like the 9 whys liberating structure, where you know, you think about why you started, or possibly looking at some of the other work there. There's work around context that you might be interested in looking at. So thinking about what's your unique context, because that's really important, and that's something you can ask children as well. I know one of the settings who are presenting in another session for the SLF, they did something really interesting where they asked the children and the parents using a Padlet, and they sent that home, and parents contributed to the Padlet and said, you know, what was unique about their own place. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I'll have a look at that. Thank you.
Oh, Stephen, do you want to come in and ask that question? That's an interesting one.
No, that's
No,
why I
no
wrote it in the
pressure,
chat.
Stephen. No pressure.
I'm just intrigued that for me that there's this thing you can spend all this time creating and developing a fantastic rationale that everybody gets and they're behind and they've invested in it. But how does that then translate into the day-to-day business? You know, surely these, you know, because these things, they get written, put on a wall, and then, you know, how do we go back and keep reminding ourselves that? I just wondered if there were any stories around that that had
No,
come out
I
of the
think
work.
that makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to share. And the last slide I've got in this, the last slide that I have got in this here, I don't know if I want to skip forward to it quite yet. I could though. I could just skip forward and show you, and then kind of go back to it, because on this last slide here, that's part of the work that was done. Now, I've got another couple of things I want to say, but I'm just going to share that one with you. There were a number of these created. We talked about sketchnoting, and one of the aspects of the sessions was there was a wee bit of input around sketchnoting, around what it is, how to do it, but then the settings involved had homework to do. So everybody went away and did their own wee sketch note of what their own personal rationale for working with children was. And this is just part of a display of, there were 10 or 11 practitioners within that setting who did this. And they were all put up on the wall. And then they were later on collated into the rationale. But it's that involvement and engagement of practitioners at every level within the setting. I think that was one of the strengths of this, because we came from a sort of situation where we had a totally virtual delivery of all our professional learning, a bit like this, to a hybrid model where there would be, you know, maybe one setting who were all sitting watching this together, and maybe 2 people at home, but they were all within their own teams. But everybody in the setting made a commitment, along with the managers, to get involved. So it wasn't just the managers, it wasn't just the head teachers. Everybody had to get involved and think about what their own personal rationale was and come together. And I think that is very, very powerful when everybody does the work. And it's not just something that is, you know, done to you, but it's done with you. And I think that's all I can say. I don't really think you can leave curriculum rationale up on the wall either. I think it's got to be remade. It's a bit like, you know, thinking about curriculum. When you've only got 2 years if you're in an ELC setting with these wee ones. If you've got a school, you're maybe with them for the whole of early level, but you've only got those 2 years, and those children are different, and you have a different cohort within that time. And their curriculum is going to be different, because their curriculum is their lived experience. So does that make any sense?
Lots of sense. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm aware of time, and I'm just wondering if there's anything else that anybody would like to come in and ask just now.
There's nothing else coming through in the chat at the moment.
Oh, well, maybe just, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and I don't see anyone typing, so
I mean, this absolutely whistle stop to this. There's just kind of quite a lot to unpick, and I would just say that probably the best thing is for folks to go and have a look through the thing link. It's probably the best thing. But I mean, when we're thinking about how did this work make a difference for wee children in the north of Scotland, one of the bits of work was using Menti, which is such a powerful tool. But this Menti just shows some of the kind of personal motivations and rationales which were shared by practitioners in the session. And staff teams across the RIC worked together to unpack their own culture, context and community, starting with the children in their care to meet the needs of our youngest learners. So we've had loads and loads of really positive feedback on the sessions. And one of them is really the particular focus on the benefits of working together across these wide geographical areas. So practitioners from the island of Mull, from Islay to Shetland. We had Fair Isle in the very farthest north, working together in a situation where they just could never have collaborated with others if we hadn't had the wonders of teams. So the use of virtual and hybrid sessions allowed practitioners to meet and share practice in similar rural and remote areas, building capacity and confidence. And you can see how skilled, sensitive and professional our practitioners are. Just look at what they say about why they work with young children. Just makes me feel so happy to see what they've said there. That's so inspiring. And so what the next steps for curriculum rationale improvement? Well, in the Northern Alliance, we are currently forming a new plan, framing our thoughts around the work of Michael Fullan's drivers. And we just can't wait to start sharing with you all the work that's going to be planned for the next few years. So please do have a look at these QR codes too, because these QR codes, one of them will take you to our Northern Alliance website and the other one will take you to a SWAY, which explains a wee bit more about the curriculum rationale improvement work. It gives more of a flavour around what I would have liked to share with you if I'd had maybe another 2 hours to tell you today. This way tells you all about the work and it gives you some exemplars which practitioners have shared. So we want to involve everyone in our communities as agents of change with a strong sense of each unique place across our device area. Please do go and have a look with the QR codes here or contact us via email. And I'm just going to go back to the end here to share that lovely sketch note. Why do I work with young children? Making a difference in child's life, providing opportunities and adventures. I get to play in the joy of children's laughter. So I'm afraid that's me for today, Alan. I hope that's been...
It's been absolutely fantastic, thank you. And I think just that message, that final comment there about making a difference in children's lives is what we're all here for. And I think if we can focus on that in everything we do, it makes a huge difference. And reflecting on what you were saying throughout that around back to that why, the why of what we're doing, to help refocus, I think is really, really important. I know that I've written down lots of things to take away just around just those reflective questions about, the curriculum itself. What does that mean? And what does it mean to different people in different contexts? And also, I think what I'm speaking on behalf of other people, but I think what other people might find useful as well is those tools that you've shared. We all love a tool and we all love being able to use that in different ways. So I would just like to thank you, Ruth, on behalf of everyone that's here this afternoon for taking the time to share that with us. And I know that you're still sharing things in the chat. So thank you. Hope you're on mute, Ruth.
I'm just popping in a link to the Northern Alliance website there. And if you just give me a wee second, I'll pop in a link to that SWAY too, so that you can see that properly. If it's too small, it will be easier if we just have another wee look. See if I can just find that quickly for you.
It's okay. And obviously, there, as Ruth has said, there's other practitioners speaking at SLF and some from the Northern Alliance areas who are also speaking at sessions after this. And there's still presentations tomorrow, so please do check them out too. I know that some people put in, I think Stephen was kind enough to put the link into one of the sections as well, so that for those that couldn't get the QR code, the thing link has been put in as well.
That's given us two, but that's the SWAY there, and the thing link and the Northern Alliance link should all be in there now, so hopefully that'll be helpful too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, colleagues, for joining us this afternoon, and I wish you a pleasant rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for coming.